Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darren, and in today's video I just kind of wanted to do a discussion with you guys for just a hot second. I was looking through a bunch of forums, I found a member champion, an interesting post that really rang with me. The idea of PvP, PvP in Legion, PvP moving on into BFA, it's something I kind of wanted to find a way to approach it, but I just didn't really know how to start the conversation. And I'm kind of just going to use this forum post in order to springboard myself off of there and just kind of dive into it. So first of all, let's talk about Legion and PvP normalization. I guess the question in this video I want to ask is it good or bad? The normalization we're talking about are the stat templates that some people like, some people don't. The PvP talents that are basically taking root of our 4-piece bonuses, glyph bonuses that would be required for PvP. And gear, the fact that it's not that necessary, the actual stats, the actual pieces, the actual trinkets are not necessary, but the item level is the only thing that matters. And I guess in this video I kind of want to just ask and hopefully try to answer, did it all work out in Legion, and how can we better this system into BFA? So let me first read the forum post itself. They're basically asking it, and this is how they frame it: PvP normalization is an RPG, a game design failure. So obviously they're not happy, but give it a second before you really start criticizing. This is an RPG, or isn't it? Blizzard doesn't seem to be entirely sure. Gear should matter in PvP. If you want to play chess, play chess. For everyone else, the players that work harder deserve better gear, better stats, and increased power in PvP. This does not mean make everything gear dependent. No, there is such a thing as balance, but if you want to motivate players to play your game, you have to make it worthwhile to farm gear. And here's a quote: "In nature, the man that had the most skill acquired more food and got more powerful. The alpha male is stronger because of the food, gear, that he has bulked with, as well as his skills. Reflect reality in your game, or we will see it die even more." Now, I'm not 100% sure what we're talking about when it's talked about the alpha male is stronger because of food. That was a bit of a stretch of a comparison, but I do like the general forum post. So when you not make fun of this forum post, you can get the idea that, hey, gear is to matter in PvP, and it would be kind of cool if they were to bring back better gear. There was some power level differences between players, because right now, gear doesn't really matter, the item level matters, so I guess having better gear does matter. But in PvP, you could be somebody who has a mythic set from the newest raid, and there could be somebody who got a close item level comparison from just doing PvP. And it doesn't make the PvPer any more effective or any more earned or anything like that. So I guess the lack of gear does feel a little bit weird. You don't really farm anything. You don't really look forward to it much anymore, because you used to count how many conquest points you would get with every single season, every single week, and figure out how much you can get per piece, and then figure out which pieces of gear you want, and kind of build up your arsenal of gear. And there was a little bit of fun aspect to it that is gone from the game. And that's kind of what I want to focus on, that aspect being taken out when they take out all the gear, because that's what Blizzard wanted to do in Legion. The idea in Legion was to remove gear as much as possible, create or take out as many differences between a new player starting with full greens and a player that's been playing for a while that has full arena set. They wanted to change the separation of the power levels, where you start from very low, and then the guy that's all geared up is way up here. They want to kind of normalize it a little bit, so the new guy doesn't get beat up at school of the as soon as he steps off the bus. They want to give people a fighting chance, but with that, you have to take some things out of the game. The gear doesn't matter, it's just all about item level. Gear doesn't matter as much, then it's all about became all about AP. Then PvP talents, you can't customize your stats anymore, and enchants and gems don't matter anymore. Your trinket choice doesn't matter. So it feels like they keep taking away from the game to try to give you a more of a balanced field. And I feel in some way it feels like it's losing a lot of its character and a lot of its core, the fun part, the fun aspect of what it is for PvP. Not just the actual, hey, let me beat you in the face because you're Alliance part, that's still there, but a little bit extra aspects of what the gear does and what it did for you. Before I really make my stake into the ground of what I'm trying to explain, I would like to take a look at the old school leveling system. Just even in Cataclysm, you had the same system of when you level, every few levels you get to put 1 point into an ability. In the long run, most of your talent points didn't really matter. A lot of it ended up going into a cookie cutter build, and getting 1 point every few levels in a long term wasn't as meaningful as, let's say, over 20 levels, or over 30, or over 40, over 60, over 70, 80, however many levels you had to play in order to get a good chunk, like half your tree, or full build of your tree, or full build and start working on the other specialization with the tree. Stuff like this wasn't huge, but it was small, and every time you leveled, every 2 levels, it was just a little bit extra meaningful. Just putting a little bit of time to grind out a few levels, you were just looking forward to this one little thing that could be amassed. So it's like, it was a very, very short-term goal, but you did it over and over and over and over and over, and it kind of was just this feeling of satisfaction back to back to back. And look, all of a sudden you are 10 levels in and you have 5 points of talents, and it's just a system that just generated a little bit more fun out of the game. It wasn't just, oh, you're just grinding until max level, but every few levels there was something cool, something exciting. It was so very minor and so very little, but I feel like it did very much for the game. It did a lot for the game when you level. And I think PvP gear has a similar effect in PvP, at least in my opinion. The PvP gear customizer, I feel like if you were, what did we lose when we lost the gear aspects of the game? We kind of lost the freedom to customize our gear, at least for PvP. And that freedom is, I think it's core to kind of how we want to build ourselves. We get that freedom when we do PvE. When you do dungeons, when you do raids, you get to decide how you want to build your character. It's not just, okay, you get item A, B, C, D, E. You have to do a little bit of research. You have to find out exactly what's appropriate for your class or your specialization. For mine, Outlaw, I'm going to gear myself differently than a Subtlety or even an Assassination player would. So it's going to be different gameplay. It's going to be a different experience. Gear also starting to matter. When you have gear just matter just a little bit, when you see it increase with the power level, I think it's something just so core to World of Warcraft that when you take it away, it doesn't feel like wow. So on that aspect, it's just an aspect of what an MMO is. And when you take out that aspect, what do you really still have an MMORPG? I think gear mattering in PvP needs to continue to matter, because that's part of the fun on PvE. As you grow with your gear, as you get not the highest item level piece, but pieces that actually improve your character, you really do get to see the progress, and you do get to learn. You get to make mistakes, you get to make learn from mistakes, make right decisions, and then it comes back to different builds. With those mistakes and those freedom of customization, you can make different builds. You can go for some crazy stats, you can go for some crazy bonus or whatever, you can go for this crazy combo of trinkets or weapon aspects, weapon choices, kind of like how Frost Death Knights could choose between a 2-hander or 2 1-handers, or for Fury Warriors, where they could go with 2 big old 2-handers or 2 1-handers. There's a little bit of customization for it. And with that came mistakes, but also the possibilities of that freedom. It was liberating, and you could really build however you wanted to. Yeah, some people would make some wrong builds and they would make wrong choices. They might have brought wrong trinket, and they were like, oh man, god dang, got wrong trinket. I end up getting a trinket that's more defensive, but I need a more offensive, or reverse order. You got more a defensive one, or offensive one, and you're more defensive. Let's say you got wrong stats, and now you're trying to figure out, okay, I need to wait this many long until I really farm up and earn this other piece of gear. And I feel like that aspect of it is what's available currently in the PvE side of the game, but in PvP is just not there. You don't get to experience that part of what is World of Warcraft in PvP. You just don't really get to. You know, it's just like they cut out a part of the. It's not really part of the content, but I think it's part of the experience, and it's just gone. It's not content. It wasn't planned to be played like this. It's not something you paid money for. But I think it's part of the experience. It's like the first time you level. It's part of that experience of learning how the world is, so big and huge, and learning of, flight paths, and learning auction house, and learning gear dependency, and learning how to group up with people, and learning how to play your role with your tank, healer, DPS. There's a lot of stuff that's like learned and experienced, and I feel like that's part that we are kind of missing in Legion. Now, they're probably going to continue with the normalization. Normalization in BFA is probably going to continue, and they are improving aspects of it. For examples, with Legion, dueling in World PvP is dead. Like, you don't really get to do any of that. You can't just go to, like, top of a hill away from others, because stat templates don't apply unless you are in a dungeon, or not in a dungeon, but in an arena, or in a BG. So they are going to have a toggle for PvP realms. When you exit a Sanctuary City, you'll be put on a PvP realm if you toggle on PvP. So you'll be able to experience World PvP and World content with PvP rules So that's awesome. That'll be great. That'll be, I think, good for the game, good for the community. Duels will be back in the game, especially if people are hanging out, let's say, outside of the new hub cities, which I think Blizzard wants people to hang out outside of new hub cities, instead of just outside of Orgrimmar and Stormwind. Although it'd be great if outside of Stormwind and Orgrimmar you could still enable it, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be the old school dueling scene for the longest time, for a while now. It's been there forever, so I don't know if it would ever stop being. So they are going to be adding the capability to include that aspect of PvP, not just in instance combat, but in the world itself. And I think there's going to be more improvements overall. They are changing the honor talent system and how that's going to function. So I'm calling it improvements, but not 100% improvement. I'm just kind of hoping the Blizzard is doing something with the goal to improve. We don't really know if that goal is going to be to improve or make things worse, because sometimes when things ain't broken, Blizzard likes to still fix them anyway. And when things need fixing, Blizzard sometimes forgets to fix them or lets them be. That's not uncommon. So we are probably going to continue this normalization, but if I could give you guys my opinion, what my solution would be to kind of bring back a little bit of that fun part of life with gear and normalization business in PvP. When you get to max level 102, you get a quest and it says, hey, champion of the Horde Alliance, hey, come to me and I got a reward for you. And once you max level for serving your faction, here's a PvP set. Everybody gets a PvP set, a baseline PvP set. Yes, it would mean take out normalization, but this PvP set, let's say, can be destroyed, it's in your bags, or can be put in your bank if you really don't want to keep it in your bags all the time. You actually have to equip it, or you don't really do any damage in PvP, heal in PvP, and maybe even take more damage when you're in PvP. So everybody gets a set, so there's no point of not bringing one around. That set is going to be pretty baseline, and most people are going to transmog it anyway, but it's going to be your basically honor points set, like the very first entry set, and you can improve it. You can buy pieces without any RNG, because I know a lot of people don't like RNG in Legion, especially for gear. So you just have to go arena, back to back with an RNG chance of gear, and even for you to Titan Forge so you can get that higher PvP item level. Like, that's not as fun. You should be able to purchase it yourself after slaying so many. You bring back 50 Alliance scalps, and bam, you can trade out for a nice pair of shoulders and upgrade your already existing shoulders. Yeah, it would mean that there would be a small difference between somebody who doesn't really ever PvP, still has the baseline set, and there would be some difference between people who do PvP, and I feel like there should be some difference, but it shouldn't be enough to be overwhelming. Like, you just cannot die if you have the full PvP set, and if you have the baseline, you just can't do any damage. It shouldn't be like that. But the baseline set would basically encourage people, hey, bring your PvP gear to the game. Bring your PvP gear to play in PvP. And then gear starts to matter because you get to upgrade that gear, you get to choose the pieces, maybe even allow us to mess around with stat templates through the pieces we pick. At least have some sort of form of customizability. Like, for example, they don't have to have, you know, baseline stats. Like, this chest, crit and versatility, and this other chest, haste mastery. You could at least, you know, you could have choice A for chest, choice B for chest, and it will tell you like which stats for stat normalization it would kind of contribute to. So you can kind of have some choices with your gear. You can customize your item level, you can customize your stats a little bit better to more, I guess, closely reflect to what you want to do out of the game. Do you want to be an Assassination Rogue full bleed spec with a lot of haste, or do you want to be one of the bursty Assassination Rogues kind of hoping for the poison bomb proc with a lot of mastery? There's a lot of options, you know. There's a lot of things you could honestly add to your specialization. So you can have a bit of customization. There will still be gear involved. Gear upgrades will go back to be important, and there will be something you look forward to. Kill so many alliance, capture so many flags, do so many of these, win so many battlegrounds. You get like different rewards. Kind of get back to honor points, conquest points system. You could trade it out for better gear because you're trying. It could be one of those things where you're really good at the game, good at slaying alliance, or you're good at the game leading people, or you're playing the objective, and they could again do the honor point system, I guess, all over in sort of in a way, but call it something else for sure. And every season, one of the things that people would say is, hey, but let's say you get next season and you get better gear. The season after that, better gear. Season after that, even better gear. Your baseline set becomes bad. Blizzard have already done the technology where they've had legendaries for us, and they actually improved every item level of every Lego for one of the patches because they weren't high enough. So they just increased it by like 30 item level at once. And you just had to go log out of the game, log back in, and bam, your Lego already has the item level. Sometimes people had to delete their cache in order to clear it. But you could also improve. Blizzard themselves could patch the item level or the power of the pieces of gear every single season. So let's say somebody just came in season 1. they haven't played the game. Let's say they just decide for whatever reason they're busy, they can't keep playing BFA. Then they come back in Season 5. Do they still have the same set from Season 1 that will make them basically unplayable? No, that set will, you can make it so it upgrades to be a new baseline for the Season 5. So people that are keeping up with gear, they'll still be a little bit ahead and they can still improve, but people that don't really get up with gear or are not that great at the game, so they can't really collect gear, or are not interested but might ever, they're not really somebody who PvPs a lot but might want to check it out from time to time. New battleground shows up, new brawl shows up, they don't need to be behind everybody either. So this way you would still have the gear aspect, you would still have the customization of gear, you would take out the RNG of the gear and how you acquire, and it would be a set that everybody has, can be deleted. There's no reason to not bring your PvP gear into a PvP situation. And of course, it doesn't matter how it looks, you could literally make it just robes and just look silly, because everybody transmog their stuff anyway. You know, it's I feel like it could actually be really good for the game, just the aspect of that gear. You know what I mean? Hopefully I'm making at least some semblance of sense here, guys. That's about all I got though on my thought process on PvP normalization. PvP normalization is, I guess, good for the game. I guess, yeah, it tries to make things balanced. I think it will never reach like a perfect. If PvP normalization made the game fully balanced, where there's just no complaint whatsoever, every class is equal in power and every class is perfectly viable, there's no empower, you know, you don't have like healers that can just live Lord McGee killing each other and just not die no matter how many DPS you throw at them, and you don't have any classes like a Frost Death Knight who can literally sneeze at a healer and they will just go blowing up, barely even touch him, barely spend a global into the guy. You won't have any of those things, you know. If you never had any of those things with PvP normalization, I honestly wouldn't say anything. But there is always going to be some destabilization with balance. That's never going to be 100% achievable for, I think, World of Warcraft, because it's never have been achievable. So if you can't achieve it, might as well, I think, bring some of the fun parts of the game back into it. I think it'd be good. I think it'd breathe a bit in your life and kind of change up the pace of not, you know, gear, no gear, then back to gear. You know what I mean? It's just part of the fun that I kind of miss out of PvP. Anyway, I think that's all I had to say for today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. As always, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Likes allow my videos to reach a wider audience, so that'll be very much appreciated. And if you guys want to catch some of the live streams we do, go ahead and hit the subscribe button in order to be notified for every single video that goes up. Whether it's BFA updates, patch discussions, videos like this where we just discuss topics, or 5.5.1.1 duels. And if you guys want to catch the streams and participate in the streams, go ahead and hit the notification bell down below next to the subscribe button in order to be notified every single video and every single stream that goes live. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.